Don Muraco was so tough, he made his opponents cry. This guy was a wrestling legend, but his career was full of ups and downs. Get ready for some insane stories and behind-the-scenes drama. Don Muraco was born in Hawaii in 1949. But even though he came from this relaxed island, he became famous for being a tough guy wrestler. This unusual combination made him really interesting to fans. He started wrestling in the 1970s and quickly became a star. When he joined the WWF in the 1980s, he was already a big deal, winning championships and fighting other famous wrestlers like Pedro Morales and Bob Backlund. Muraco was a fantastic bad guy in wrestling. He was cocky and talented, and fans loved to boo him. But like everyone, he also had some tough times in his life. Let's find out more about those times. Let's start with one of the most infamous chapters in Muraco's career, the WWF European Tour of 1988. Now, if you know anything about these tours, you'll know they were a grind. Long flights, packed schedules, and a lot of high-pressure situations. Throw in a bunch of larger-than-life personalities, and you've got a recipe for drama. During this particular tour, Muraco got into an altercation with fellow wrestler Nick Bockwinkel. What exactly happened? That's where the story gets fuzzy. Some say it was a clash of egos. Others say it was just a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. Whatever the truth, the fallout was massive. Muraco wasn't just reprimanded, he was fired. And he wasn't the only one. Other big names like the British Bulldogs were also let go during this period. For Muraco, it meant the end of his WWF run at a time when the company was skyrocketing in popularity. Fans were shocked. How could one of the most talented and charismatic wrestlers of the era suddenly disappear? The incident remains one of wrestling's great what-if moments. Now let's rewind a bit to 1983, a time when Muraco was at the top of his game as one of the WWF's biggest villains. One of his most iconic moments came during a steel cage match with Jimmy Superfly Snuka. The match itself was intense, but what happened afterward is what fans still talk about to this day. After the bout, Snuka climbed to the very top of the cage. Keep in mind, this was before high-flying moves were a regular part of wrestling. The crowd didn't know what to expect. Then it happened. Snuka leaped off the cage and hit Muraco with his signature Superfly splash. The arena exploded. Fans were on their feet, and that moment went down in history as one of wrestling's most unforgettable spectacles. But here's the thing. While fans loved it, the move was incredibly risky. Critics called it reckless, saying it could have easily led to serious injuries. At the time, such high-risk stunts were almost unheard of, making this a highly controversial moment. For Muraco, it was just another night playing the villain to perfection. He made Snuka look like an unstoppable hero, and in doing so, cemented both of their legacies. One thing you couldn't miss about Muraco was his in-ring style. He was intense, hard-hitting, and, well, stiff. If you're new to wrestling terms, being stiff means hitting your opponent a little harder than you probably should. Fans loved it because it made his matches feel authentic. When Muraco threw a punch or slammed his opponent, you'd have felt it. But not everyone in the locker room appreciated his style. Some wrestlers accused him of going too far, saying he risked injuring his opponents. Was it intentional? Most likely not. Wrestling in the 1980s was a much more physical game than it is today, and Muraco was just doing what he thought made for a good show. Still, it added a layer of controversy to his career that followed him throughout his time in the ring. Outside the ring, Muraco's life wasn't all glitz and glamour. Like many wrestlers from his era, he faced some serious challenges once the adrenaline of performing faded. In interviews, Muraco has been refreshingly open about his struggles with alcohol. Wrestling in the 80s wasn't just physically demanding, it was mentally and emotionally draining. For many wrestlers, alcohol became a way to cope with the stress, the pain, and the endless travel. Muraco's honesty about this part of his life has resonated with fans, showing a more human side to the larger-than-life persona they saw in the ring. Then there's the toll wrestling took on his body. Decades of matches, slams, and high-impact moves left Muraco dealing with significant health issues. It's a reality many wrestlers face, and Muraco has spoken about how those years in the ring shaped his life after retirement. Unlike some of his friends, Muraco has chosen to live a relatively private life since stepping away from the ring. He hasn't chased the spotlight with reality shows or frequent public appearances. Instead, he's kept a low profile, occasionally showing up at wrestling conventions or speaking on podcasts. This quiet lifestyle has left fans wondering what he's been up to. Some have speculated about his health or personal life, but Muraco has largely kept those details to himself. And you know what? That's okay. He's earned the right to enjoy life on his own terms. For fans, it's a reminder that the people we see in the ring are more than just characters. They're real people, with their own struggles, wins, and need for privacy. Controversies aside, Don Muraco's impact on wrestling is undeniable. He was more than just a great wrestler. He was a storyteller, a provocateur, and an entertainer who knew how to keep fans glued to their seats. His rivalries with legends like Jimmy Snuka, his fiery promos, and his undeniable presence in the ring made him a star. Even his controversies like the European Tour incident and the Superfly splash moment add to the mystique of his career. Muraco's journey reminds us that wrestling isn't just about wins and losses, it's about moments. It's about the stories that stick with us long after the matches are over. And for that, Don Muraco will always be remembered as one of the greats. Let us now look at his career in detail, and this is for the true fans only. Don was born in a beautiful place called Sunset Beach in Hawaii. Picture the sunny beaches, the ocean, and a kid who loved being active. That was Don. He was a natural athlete, and in high school, he was a star in both football and track. He was strong, he was fast, and he loved competition. Now, you might think football would be the obvious next step, but Don had other plans. He was drawn to the excitement and drama of professional wrestling. It was a chance to use his athleticism and strength in a whole new way. So in the early 1970s, he started training to become a wrestler. Imagine him learning the ropes, practicing moves, and building up his skills. It wasn't easy, but Don was determined. He started his wrestling journey in smaller promotions, kind of like the minor leagues in baseball. He wrestled in Hawaii, Florida, and even traveled around the West Coast, gaining experience and making a name for himself. Think of it as him going to wrestling school and learning from different teachers in each place. During this time, he wrestled against some tough opponents and learned a lot about the business. It was like an apprenticeship, where he was getting better and better with each match. This period was all about building a foundation. He was learning how to wrestle, how to connect with the crowd, and how to tell a story in the ring. It was like learning to be an actor and an athlete at the same time. All this hard work and dedication paid off when he finally got the call to join the big leagues, the World Wrestling Federation in 1981. This was his chance to shine on the biggest stage in wrestling. Imagine him stepping onto the scene in 1981, this Hawaiian powerhouse with a chiseled physique and a look that could intimidate anyone. He wasn't just a pretty face, though. Don could really wrestle. He quickly became a top heel, which is wrestling lingo for a bad guy. Fans loved to hate him. He had this arrogant attitude and a sneaky way of winning matches that just got under people's skin. One of his biggest accomplishments was winning the Intercontinental Championship. Not once, but twice. This was a really big deal, like winning a major trophy. He had some legendary battles with guys like Pedro Morales and Tito Santana, two of the biggest names in wrestling at the time. These matches were intense, full of action, and had the crowds going wild. Then, in 1985, he won the very first King of the Ring tournament. It was a big event where top wrestlers competed to be crowned the king. Don came out on top, and it was like he was officially recognized as one of the best. But it wasn't just about winning titles. Don was involved in some of the most unforgettable matches in WWF history. One that really stands out is his steel cage match with Jimmy Superfly Snuka at Madison Square Garden. Think of a cage surrounding the ring, and Snuka climbing to the top, then leaping off onto Muraco. It was a crazy moment that people still talk about today. He also had epic showdowns with Bob Backlund, who was the WWF champion at the time. These matches were classics, with both guys pushing each other to the limit. They were the kind of matches that had fans on the edge of their seats. So during this time, Don was at the top of his game. He was a main event player, a champion, and a guy who could always be counted on to deliver an exciting match. He was a true superstar in the world of professional wrestling. But like with many athletes, things eventually started to change. In the late 1980s, Don went through a bit of a makeover. He ditched the bad guy act and became a good guy, a fan favorite. He even started teaming up with a legendary wrestler named Superstar Billy Graham, who became his manager. Billy Graham was known for his over-the-top personality and his ability to hype up the crowd. He helped Don connect with the fans in a whole new way. Interestingly, during this time, Don was actually one of the first wrestlers to use the nickname The Rock. Can you believe that? Years later, Dwayne Johnson would become super famous with the same nickname. But Don was the original Rock. Even though he was popular with the fans, Don ended up leaving the WWF in 1988. There are different stories about why he left. But sometimes things just change in the wrestling world. It's like actors moving on to different projects. This wasn't the end for Don Muraco, though. He continued wrestling for several years in other promotions. Think of it like switching teams or leagues. He wrestled for places like Eastern Championship Wrestling, which later became ECW, in the Universal Wrestling Federation. He was still showing off his skills and entertaining fans, just on a different stage. Finally, in 1995, Don decided to hang up his boots and retire from wrestling. After years of exciting matches and thrilling the crowds, it was time for a new chapter in his life. But even though he retired, Don didn't disappear completely. He would still pop up at wrestling events or fan conventions from time to time. It's like a reunion with old friends and fans who still remember his awesome career. Don Muraco may have stepped out of the wrestling ring for good in 1995, but his impact on the sport is undeniable. He wasn't just another wrestler. He was an artist who painted masterpieces of aggression and athleticism in the squared circle. Muraco wasn't just about brute force, though. He possessed a keen wrestling mind, strategically dismantling his adversaries with a blend of power moves and cunning tactics. He could brawl with the best of them, but he could also execute intricate holds and counters with surprising agility. He was a true ring general, orchestrating the flow of a match like a conductor leading an orchestra. And let's not forget his undeniable charisma. Whether he was playing the arrogant villain or the defiant hero, Muraco had a way of connecting with the audience. He could make you love him, hate him, or even fear him, but he never failed to evoke a reaction. He was a master storyteller, weaving narratives of triumph and tragedy with every slam, every submission, every defiant glare. His influence on wrestling is profound. He was a trailblazer, one of the first to adopt the moniker The Rock, a nickname that would later become synonymous with another wrestling icon. He also participated in some of the most unforgettable moments in wrestling history, like that breathtaking leap from the top of the cage by Jimmy Superfly Snuka. These moments are etched in the annals of wrestling lore, testaments to Muraco's ability to create unforgettable spectacles. The wrestling world recognized his contributions. In 2004, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a testament to his enduring legacy. This prestigious honor solidified his place among the immortals of professional wrestling, and in 2014, he received further recognition with his induction into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, cementing his status as a true legend of the sport. Though he may be retired, Don Muraco's spirit lives on in the countless wrestlers he inspired. His intensity, his skill, and his unwavering dedication to his craft continue to resonate with fans and performers alike. He is a true icon, a name forever synonymous with the golden age of professional wrestling. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more wrestling history and legend spotlights. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you don't miss any uploads. Thanks for watching.